Good afternoon, good morning, whoever's lucky enough to tune in to our first ever webinar with Drupal. I'm Francesco Mercurio. This is Steve Newcomb.
I'm
sorry.
Steve Newcomb. That's
There we
okay.
go. Tell it's our first one, right? And what we thought we'd do is a series on how Drupal works in real estate and other applications, but we were going to start with buildings. And it's not just about Drupal, it's around water management and stewardship in general. And if you're in that world, hopefully this will be a constructive use of the next 10 to 15 minutes, I guess, Steve?
Yep. Well, we do go on a bit, though, don't we?
We do. We do. More so over lunch. So we look after the UK and Ireland and other countries by negotiation, especially if they have palm trees. But Drupal is worldwide. Last time I checked, we're in 20 plus countries and growing. So what we thought we would title our webinar today about is Beyond the Meter, or the last mile. So my background's actually in dispense and water coolers, coffee machines, etc., but did a lot of work in hospitality. Steve, your background?
Yeah, well, I'm a wireless guy, if you like. So I'm a techie. I'm an engineering nerd, and I got into Industry 4 and IoT about 4 years ago, and we met at an exhibition, didn't we? And we've kept in touch since then, and now we work together, which is great.
I think I tried to sell you something, didn't I?
Yeah, you did. Yeah, but we dared we daredn't fit it. We daredn't fit it because it was in a very old building.
That was the facilities management show, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
Brilliant. Okay. Oh, we should go to that again. And I think what we talked about was the synergy between measuring the water and measuring other consumables within a building, whether that's gas, electricity, or timing, or whatever it may be. And what we both agreed on, and I guess is why we got on, was no one's smart people and smart buildings and smart businesses are monitoring resources in real time. And it's not necessarily the opposite of smart, but places that could be more efficient are just paying the bills.
Yep. Yeah. And of course, the more you measure, the easier it is to manage stuff. And you can correlate across. So you're dead right. Water usage has an impact on electricity as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that people flow through buildings can have knock-on effects. And so the more measurement, the better.
Mm-hmm.
And so water is an important and increasingly important part of that, I think, as water becomes more scarce in the world and we have the stories about data centers taking up everybody's water. We need to be on top of it.
Yes. Well, I think people forget it's finite. And I sincerely hope that within our lifetimes or ever, water is not the same price as gas and electricity. But I could guarantee that if it was even close right now, you and I wouldn't be having time to have this webinar because we'd be filling in quotes left, right, and center. So I think it's really indicative of how little people, I guess, value water because it's just a given. And we think, well, we just got a water bill every month, every quarter. We just pay it. And they don't think about the savings of just water being important, but they don't consider that with the data that we'll talk about in a little bit, you can have an ROI on the investment across lots of different departments. I think you said one time this was the difference between the capillaries and the aorta. So we measure the last mile.
Yep. Yeah. And of course, the water leakage and water misuse has an impact on how much power you use because that water's got to be moved around.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in a hospital or an office block or something, the water doesn't just filter down from a tank in your roof like it may do in a house. You have to move this thing around, and what you're doing is using electricity to move water around to leak.
Yes, of course. I think there's a lot of people that don't consider that. They just think the leak is the cost of the water, not the energy to get it to where it's leaking from. And I think there's a little moral stewardship there. There's a cost of energy of getting it to the building to begin with before it goes in the building. That doesn't move for free. So anyway, so we call it the blind spot, basically after the meter, last mile of water, whatever you want to call it. So I think one of the pertinent statistics is that buildings lose up to 30% of water that they're actually getting billed for due to silent leaks. So everyone gets really excited, rightly so, about a leak that starts cascading down from floor to floor or damages equipment. What we've discovered with the shopping malls and some of the other ones that we've done those projects with is the silent leaks, which is, you could call it leaky loo, you could call it ghost flushing.
Yep.
There's links in faucets, sinks, etc., risers. The thing is, if it's not causing any damage, no one reports it, and you kind of have to be weird to be sat looking at a urinal to see if there's a little trickle down the back.
Yep. Yep.
And as a user, unless you're really, really civic minded, as someone who's just using a facility in an office and you're standing there or sitting there and you see the little trickle of water down the back of the pan or the urinal, how often do people go to facilities or to the desk downstairs and say, oh, by the way, don't know if you knew, up there, there's a little tiny leak. And even if they did,
Yep.
how quickly do you think that gets fixed?
Well, and of course, you touched on that shopping mall example. What was happening there was that when there was no one there, the pressure of the water increased, and then leaks that didn't happen during the day were happening at night. And as you say there, the ghost flush, the little ripple of water on top of the toilet. But in good old-fashioned measurement terms, you're talking about filling an Olympic-sized pool with that leaking water over a year from a not very big shopping mall.
Of drinking water.
Yeah,
the other thing
that's what we
filtered.
do.
Safe.
We flush drinking water and then go and buy it in a shop that's more expensive than petrol in your car.
Crazy, isn't it? So I think we're not the only solution that measures water after the meter, but as far as I know, when we've done a competitor analysis, we're one of the few that does more than just measure the volume. And that kind of takes us nicely into the next section about ROI on installation, because some people have said to us, I think we were in the same meeting, when someone said, oh, does that mean we have to turn the water off and put the sensor in the pipe? I always say yes, and that's a good thing, because it means that you have to turn the water off and put the sensor in the pipe, which means that you're measuring the water accurately rather than guessing it based on other external factors. And the second thing is, depending on whether you're the end user of our solution or the facilities managers, that means you're committed to getting the data for a period of time, and the value of the data increases massively beyond, say, like the first month or 6 months. If you have a year's worth of data, you can make you've got actionable data that gives you insights.
Yep. And of course, so yeah, that's the good and the bad of the Drupal solution. They're solutions that sort of sense the movement by wrapping sensors around the pipe. And the Drupal one, you have to commit to putting it in. Mm-hmm. And the important thing to realize, of course, is if you are measuring anything, water, power, whatever it is, you should be spending some time getting your initial data before you even think about how you're going to change the way you work.
Yeah, because otherwise you're just guessing.
Yeah.
So we don't just measure the water use. We measure the temperature. We measure the cycles, which is a really interesting piece of data when you're looking at washrooms, as an example. We can also measure water quality, so we can measure the conductivity and the TDS. So I think you and I...
And of course, in that case, we're only looking for changes. We're not scientifically analyzing the water.
No.
But you're looking for changes.
Yeah. And that's the same with the cycles, actually, is the patterns, and the temperature is the changes. So if we think about, we've talked about saving water, also optimizing the use of water. So if you're measuring the heating of the water, and now you have real data about how often the hot water taps are used, for how much and for how long and when, then that gives you some insight as to when you should heat the water. Because most businesses that I know of they operate in the same way, in a way that we do at home, which is like, I'll just stick it on at 6:30. turn it off at 8:15 when everyone leaves.
Yep.
So now gas is expensive, so is electricity. So I think it's probably worth knowing how much water you need and how and when you need it.
Exactly. And of course, just like in your home, when you turn the hot tap on, if it hasn't been used for a long time, you're waiting all that time for the hot water to get through.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're just pouring that straight down the sewers.
Yep. Talking about temperature, I think both of us have had inquiries and we're working on some projects about Legionella risk management. I just want to be really clear. We don't detect Legionella. What Drupal can do is give people real data about the risks in terms of temperature and stagnation.
Stagnation is the big thing, isn't it? And of course, a lot of people will go to a tap every week or 2 weeks to turn it on and turn it off again as part of their Legionella management regime. And if you're using a third party, that could mean somebody getting in a van and driving just to turn a tap on and off. And if you're sensing whether there's movement of water or not, if there is movement of water, you don't need to start that van up. It's a massive, that's probably one of the killer apps, if you like, for facilities management, that you don't have to mobilize staff just to do a routine to demonstrate that you're managing your Legionella risk.
Well, we talk about resources being expensive. One of the most expensive currently is people. Rightly so, because we're awesome as human beings. But surely a person should their cost or their investment for a business should have the biggest return. And actually just sending somebody to turn a tap on and then turn it off and then write on a sheet or tap on a pad that they've done it is not really the best use of their time. What they could be doing is going specifically to the areas that actually need it and then going to other areas of the facility that need repairs or something more valuable.
And the same applies with cleaning then, really, because you've probably got a routine that you go to this toilet every hour and you scribble your signature on a little piece of paper that's stuck on the door. But if nobody's used that toilet in an hour, what's the point of cleaning it? But if there's a toilet that's used really more frequently, then you should visit it more frequently and manage your facilities in tune with how they're being used rather than just every hour or every 2 hours or whatever.
Well, that was the one that you mentioned, the shopping mall, where we discovered where Drupal highlighted the ghost flushing, the leaking when the water pressure went up. The initial reason for them putting it in wasn't actually for water measurement. It was the activities, the cycles of the taps and the toilets and the urinals and the doors, so that the facilities company could optimize the cleaning schedule around the use patterns of the public toilets. Then as a result of that, they then discovered the savings on the cleaning schedule and also the heating schedule for the water. And the same thing happened with the supermarket trial that we did too.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing with this water measurement is it's probably hard to justify for a single use case. But the benefits unfold as time goes on. That's why you need to measure first before you even think about what you're going to do in the long term to make real impacts.
Yeah. Very true. How many businesses are investing money trying to change something without, well, I'm saying without knowing? They're obviously going to do a good thing by changing their faucets or their cisterns that are by design going to use less water. But wouldn't it be better to know how much water you're using to begin with, have actual data, then change it, and then know exactly what you've saved, then have data to save even more by changing people's behaviors and patterns or enabling them to, and then look at the whole infrastructure of the building.
That's it. And the more data you get, the easier that is. And if it's presented in the right way, which I think the new Drupal platform is presenting that data in the right way, you can even then start to change the way that people in your facility work. And even gamify it a wee bit sometimes, that we've saved more water than the accounts this week or whatever.
Well, we did we did the schools just after COVID to measure clearly it was about measuring water use, but they used the hand wash basin versus activations of toilets to have screens to tell the kids which team was doing better on the hand washing. And the net result of that is never ever shake hands with a French school kid in that particular region, because they were not washing their hands as much as they used to.
Yep.
So I don't know if there's a cost benefit of that, but anyway. Okay, well, we're getting up to about 20 minutes. And if anyone's still with us, thank you. That's great. We will do this again at some point, and I think we'll probably deep dive some individual cases. But we wanted to give people an overview on, I guess, some of the different benefits of measuring. You know, we have a lot of strap lines. One is you can't value what you don't measure, which is true. And no one really is measuring what happens once it's in the building. Obviously, we love Droople. That's why we're here. But I think one of the really strong things about it is that there's not a huge cost of entry to try it. So there's no huge licensing cost or onboarding procedure.
Yep.
People can do a pilot.
Exactly. And yes, you have to break your pipe. You have to break your pipes and put a sensor in. There's a simple to install wireless gateway. You just need to plug it into something. It's got a SIM card built in, so it sends the data back to Drupal seamlessly, and you're off and ready to go.
Mm-hmm. And you can try it with a zone in your building, or one of your buildings within an estate, or even just a particular facility within a zone. So you just wanted to look at the toilets or the sinks or the kitchen areas or something like that. It's worth trying, because if you get the data, we can almost guarantee that you're going to want to continue to get the data and expand the trial outwards, because the amount of benefit that you get from having real time, and it is real time every 5 minutes, information about what's going on in your facility. You probably have that now with electricity and gas. In fact, the show that I went to after the one that I met you was a property tech show, which was also very good. There was a lot of providers offering a system to measure everything, including like whether desk doors were open and how chairs put back. If you're measuring at that level, why are you not measuring the amount of water that you use, especially drinking water?
And of course, Drupal's got a simple to install API, and so the Drupal data all becomes part of that master dashboard, if you like, if that's the way you want to go. And as I said, you do that measurement in that pilot scheme, and then you can cross-correlate things that you didn't even think had an effect, and you'll see those correlations.
Perfect. So I think we've identified people are a bit blind, not a criticism, but people are guessing at the last mile. We've got a solution to give you some information about that. We can do a trial. I call it the Dr. Pepper scenario. What's the worst that's going to happen? Send us an email. We can have a conversation. We can tell you roughly what you can expect from a pilot, and we can talk about saving water and resources.
Yep. And the great thing about pilots is if the pilot fails, you might have some really valuable data and learnings that actually mean then that a rollout will be successful. So again, you don't have to be worried if the pilot doesn't quite give you what you wanted. The Drupal sensor won't block the water if the pilot fails.
That's it. It'll just sit there. You don't have to take it out. Exactly. Yeah. Good point. Good point. If for some reason you don't want to carry on, just leave it in. So there's no extra cost. Excellent. Okay. Well, I think I'm hoping when we put this up, we'll get some comments on this. I think we're going to put this on LinkedIn and on YouTube and probably on our website. So feel free to comment, send us some feedback. Nice, please. This is Friday afternoon.
Yes.
And we'll do another one in a week. I think we've scheduled another one, haven't we? So thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thanks for your time, Steve.
Thanks, mate. No problem.
Good to see you again. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.